wanted to talk a minute about motivation and what motivates us. As I go to work this morning, I have to remember, why did I get up today? Why did I get out of bed? And what makes me go to work? What makes me want to do a good job? And everybody has to ask that question, and motivation's a very difficult thing. And it's so much easier in a lot of cases to do the minimum. Why is it good to be motivation and to have motivation to work hard instead of just get by? There are so many things that do have our motivation, and it might not be the best reasons. There's a lot of things that are fun that have our motivation. Am I motivated to get up and go down to the beach? Well, yeah, that's pretty fun. We can push through being tired. We can push through rushing through things, getting up early, things like that, to be able to go and do fun things like going to the beach or going shopping or going and visiting different places. And we find the strength and the motivation to be able to do those because they're pleasurable. And even if there is some displeasure, some discomfort, even if there is hard things that you have to do to go do those things, the activity itself and the outcome outweighs the little bit of difficulty that we experience. But a lot of times, and most times, we spend most of our time working. And there are a lot of, even in bad jobs, a lot of good motivating factors, and there's a lot of things that we like about whatever we do, because even if it's a job we don't like, we still chose it. We still work in it in most instances. There's sometimes that we don't have choices in jobs, but most of the time we do what we know, and we do things that we like. So there are things that we like, but in a lot of cases, because of different situations, it becomes difficult to do your job, even in something that you like, be it because of different management and different pressures, because of the clients you work with, things like that. It becomes very distasteful. Take, for example, my line of work. I've always found myself in customer service, and unfortunately the minority ends up consuming the minority. And what I mean by that is, the customers you deal with, a lot of them are appreciative, thankful, they're easy to get along with, and it's pleasurable. A lot of them are thankful and even go out of their way to show you their things. But there are a lot of customers who are very difficult to work with, to say the least, to say the very minimum. And so it makes it very difficult to do that. And then whenever you couple that with hard pressures from management, ownership, things like that, it becomes to where long hours, whenever it cuts into those things that you like to do, it really takes away from your motivation. It's hard to get up and be motivated for things like that whenever you have pressures, and then especially if they mount and it seems like it's the majority of the day, majority of the week, it's a consistent thing that's part of the job. It makes it very difficult to find the motivation and do things. And the problem is if you let it, we can all make the excuse, and we can find ourselves doing that with all things, to where it can be to where we only focus on the negative and the hard things, and we lose our motivation to do those things because of the difficulties. And there's a lot of people that take it to the extreme and find difficulty with everything, so they end up doing nothing. They become apathetic towards things instead of motivated. They become lazy towards things because they see those things and they'd rather not do them. They're joyful, and then they only focus on, hey, I'd rather be doing something more I enjoy. But most people, I think, find that medium to where they don't get to the apathetic, but they get to where it isn't joyful either. They don't push through those things. It's hard to focus on those things that make it fun. To make it that day at the beach I was talking about. It's hard to focus on those things because of other pressures. But most people get up and they make go of it. And we got to ask ourselves, what motivates us, though? What is our motivation? Why do we get up and do those things? Why do we get up and push through those difficult situations? Where do we find the motivation to go through those things? Whenever you go down to the beach, it is because of the good time, and that outweighs the negative on it. And so the little bit of aggravation, a little bit of hard time you have doing those things, you're able to push through those things. You're able to overcome them because of the joy. And really, you have to, in many cases, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but you have to be able to, in all situations, change your mind about how you think about things to begin with. Is this hardship really a hardship to begin with? Is this just normal and just part of the business? I know in my previous job as a store manager that I really had to change my mind about what was difficult about something and ask myself, is this something that's just normal that I'm just making a problem when it isn't? Is this just something I want to add on to the pile of other complaints? And is this something that I could really deal with and really change my mind? And I've been able to make great strides changing my perception of different things. Looking at things different, really thinking about things, and am I really going through a hard time here? But anyway, even with the difficult things, you still have to ask yourself, what is the motivation for these things? And I know from experience, I'm dealing with it now, to where there are some people who do the right things for the wrong motivation. All right, example, if you have a business, that business has to succeed. You can't stay in business unless you do succeed. And what you have to do to succeed is work harder than the competition to be able to stay afloat. You have to make more than you did last year because things cost more than last year. They don't go down. Things aren't going to go down now. I can look at the current situation with our country. Things have are inflated. Is that inflation going backwards? No, it's not going to get any better. It may get a little better temporarily, but things will stay the same, if not go up. So with business, you got to pay people more, things cost more, and so you have to do better than last year to be able to compensate for the cost of things the next year. And so you have to be motivated to be able to take care of that customer. You have to have a good mental attitude. In other words, you have to look at things that you think are a problem, like the complaining customer. That's one of the things you have to change your mind about. The complaining customer, you can look at it as the reason why not to go in, and that's one of the things I told you have to change your mind about. Than to look at it as, hey, that's just part of the job. If you're going to be in customer service, that's just part of it. And it doesn't matter where I go. If I deal with customers, I'm going to have that problem. So you got to change your mind about those things and how you think about things, or else you won't be motivated and it'll just be miserable. But then there are times, like I've alluded to, and I guess that's the point of this, is what is our main motivation, and what is our motivation of going in? And we have to have a good motivation. The law of God works, and has an order whether we follow it or not. So take for example the law of gravity that God put in place. Do you have to be a believer for the law of gravity that God put into place to be in effect in our lives? No, absolutely not. If you jump off of your stairs and go down, gravity's going to pull you down. If you try to climb a mountain, those laws of gravity apply to you, the unbeliever, the same as it does a believer. And so there's businesses that can have the right motivation for growing people, for making that profit I was talking about, for making more money the next year than this year, for taking care of their employees, for taking care of the customer, to be able to make a living and a savings for their family, for making things easier for them in life. And it's a good thing to be able to have the money to put up an inheritance, to be able to do those things. And that's where, again, that goes hand in hand with what motivates us. Most of us have our families as motivation. We're motivated to get up and go in, to be able to put a roof over our heads, to be able to put food in our bellies, to be able to have heat in the wintertime, to be able to have cool in the summer, to be able to, and in this American life, it's to be able to do things, to be able to go to the beach, to be able to provide clothing and nice things for your family. It's a good thing to do those things. And people's motivation is good. And that's where I said a lot of times you can follow good examples, and even the godly, if they follow these things, if they take care of the customer, if they sell more, if they're able to do better at their jobs and beat the competition, and grow their company, those are good things, good motivation to be able to do those things. But there's always layers of motivation, and there's good motivation, and then there's not so good. We can do the right things, and we can follow the laws of gravity and do things, and then there's bad things that you can follow the rules of gravity and get your leg broke. Example, there's the main motivation, and then there's underlying motivations. You can do those things to make a provision for your family, because God, and that's the ultimate motivation right there. And I guess that's the overall goal of what should be of people, is to do those things because that's the way God set it up. That's the way He wants us to live. That's the way He designed this planet. It's built into our very existence. Is we honor Him with our money and with our work, and then to provide for our family and set up an inheritance. All those good things are good reasons, and whenever we have God at our forefront, those are good motivations. And so you work hard to take care of customers, because that's another thing that God set into place. That's that law I was talking about. Hey, you take care of customers, they're going to take care of you. You're going to be successful. If you look at that other person and see them as a child of God, and you want to help them meet their needs in this life, and you do it motivation to honor God by taking care of them, then that's a good thing. But then you can do the same thing for the wrong motivation. You can do things because you're trying to make that money. You aren't trying to provide for your family. There's always that fine line, and I don't know where that line is for many people, but there's always that fine line of you're doing it because you need money to provide, and then there's you're doing it to make money to provide, but it's just another level to where I just need more money and more things, and it's no longer about the roof over our head or taking care of the customer. It's the ends is the means to your motivation. We need to make more because we can make more. We need to make more because we want more. We need to make more because it's there to get. And that's what I've experienced recently, to where I've came from a place to where the motivation was to make profits. It was to grow the business. It was to do those right and good things. And the motivation is to be able to take care of our families, to be able to grow business, because we can hire more people, because we can take care of more people if we run a successful business, to where we can help people out, we can give more, we can do all those good right things. We can take somebody and help them achieve the same success that we've done. Hey, we've been able to make a good living and make provision for our family and our lives, and And now we want to help somebody else along and promote their lives. And if you're doing the right things, and if you have the right motivation, and if you're doing it to honor God, you provide for your family, and work through those hard things to be able to honor God, family, and yourself, then hey, that's good. And if you're extra blessed on those things, that's just an extra blessing, and the Lord has seen fit to be able to do those things. And I think there's an extra measure of, hey, you should probably take care of people more if you have more, but that's a different topic for a different time. The topic for today is doing things for the right motivation. And a lot of us can trick ourselves and say we're doing it because we want to honor God. But then whenever everything we do and everything we say is just about the making of the money, to get the things, to do better, for it doesn't seem like any ends. And I'm working for somebody now where their ends and their goal has been plainly stated, where they say we need to make money to make more money. Plain and simple. We need to make more because there's more to get. We want to make more because we want more. All those things have been stated. The motivation is off. And in their dealings with the employees, like I said, I've been at a company to where they've cared about the employees. They want the employee to grow. They've wanted the person to be successful. And whenever you invest into other people, you get it back. Whenever you invest into somebody else, it automatically comes back to you. It isn't the point of the getting back. It's the point of investing in other people, and the right return comes whenever you have the proper motivation. And whenever your motivation is just to do those things to get the return, whenever your motivation is the return and it isn't because of the right things, then it becomes skewed and it becomes difficult. And I've seen the way employers treat them, and whenever they say, if you don't do better, we can find 10 other love you out there and we can replace you. And if you don't do it, we'll find somebody else who does. And whenever their motivation has been plainly stated, hey, we need to do more because there's more to do. And whenever they've set a precedent, whenever they've done things to show that they really don't care about you or your personal success, they don't care about you and your growth. It doesn't matter if you say the right things. Yeah, they're, I've been in the meetings to where a lot of the things of how to do things, they say are right. Hey, if you present items in a certain manner, then the profits come in, and if you do things a certain way, you get these certain things. That's that law of gravity. If you do things a certain way, it doesn't matter who you are, it tends to work out for you. But the motivation is completely different, and the motivation isn't there in a lot of cases. The motivation is in the wrong thing, and that's what makes it difficult in this life. Makes it difficult to find the employer that has you in mind, that they can do those things, and the motivation can be lost. And that's where we need to look to Christ and look to the book of Colossians. I was in there this morning. It says in there, slaves, obey your masters for it's pleasing to the Lord. Don't do it just for eye service or for and man, I can't see at all. But don't do it just to please men, but do it to please God. Do it because He's the motivation, because He's the right way to do it. Do it because you're providing for your family, because He said that's the right way to do it. We don't do it because for ourselves and just for our growth. We do it for God and for others. And we got to take care of our family. And the motivation is completely off for these things. But even if their motivation's off, and even if it's a tough situation, to be able to find the motivation to be able to get up and do those things and face the hardship because you're doing it for the right reason, because you're doing it because it's God honoring, and because you're helping out other people, because you're making it easier for people. And let us remember that in what we do, and whenever we do have tough situations where their motivation is only the dollar. It's only the profit. It's only what I can get. It isn't other people. But let your motivation be, and let you change your mind about things. And even though we might have a taskmaster, let us remember that we're not doing it for him anyhow. We're doing it because we want to honor God in what we do. We want to provide for our family. We want to invest in them. We want to invest in our co-workers. We want to provide for our customer because it's the right thing to do. We want to do it because ultimately we want Christ to be shown through us. We want Jesus to be shown through us. And how do we do that? It's by doing what He commands and doing it for Him and doing it with a good attitude and doing it because we're honoring Him. And the Colossians says so. We're doing it because He commanded us to. And we got to look to Christ and look to Jesus while He spent His time here on earth. What is His motivation? Jesus's motivation was to honor God and what He did. And the garden is a good example of that. Us in our flesh, even though things are tough, we don't want to do things. And it's like this morning, I'm going through a garden thing to where working for people that don't have the same motivation as you, it's difficult to go through because you don't know your security, because they know deep down they don't care about you, they care about the profits. And so it's difficult going through things, but it's not my will, but it's your will. The Lord's Prayer says that. God in the garden, please let this cup pass from me. If there's another way to do it, let that happen. But it's not my will, it's His will that we do these things. And today, my motivation is God. It's doing things His way. He did things, He came into human flesh. He came into this existence because He wanted to honor God, and He wanted to be able to help us. He wanted to help His children. He wanted to make provision for them. He wanted to make a way for them. Things are difficult, but His motivation is God the Father. His working, and He sends way to help us. He sent the Holy Spirit to help us. So not only does he require us to do things, but he sends a helper. And we got to look to him and his example. And because of him and what he's done, we have to have that motivation to be able to do these things ourselves. And if you find yourself in a difficult situation, we got to do things because it honors God, because it grows, because it provides for our family, because it helps others, the people that we work with that are going through the same situation I am. Hey, they have to endure things like I do. And if I have a bad attitude, does that honor God? If I have a bad attitude, if I have a bad motivation, does that honor the things? Does that help me make, if I have a bad attitude about every bad customer that comes in, have a bad attitude with the way things are run, or if I have a bad attitude with my coworkers, does that help anything at all? No, it doesn't. It doesn't help anything. And so trust in the Lord. Work as you're working for him, as the Bible says. Do it unto him. And not when just the boss is looking, like Colossians says, but whenever the boss isn't looking. Do your best. And if things happen poorly, like we like to get in our mind, oh man, this is going to go badly, I might as well not do anything at all. I'm going to get fired anyhow. Might as well just ride this out. No sense of trying. No. Motivation. You got to have the right motivation. And you can go through the motions and do the right things, and things will turn out okay. But that core motivation, you still have to do things for Christ. You have to do things for his glory, and do things because of him. And whenever you have the right motivation, whenever you have the right attitude, and whenever you're doing it to honor those things, the things are going to work out. Even if they work out bad, even if you get fired, God has it all under control. Look who the one you're trusting in. Look to the one that provided this job to begin with. Look to, hey, why do you even have this job? You shouldn't even have this job. I'm already, you're making money. You're providing for your family. So be thankful for what you do have. They may not have the right motivation. Their motivation might be just money and profits. They may not value you. They don't want to grow you. They may have the wrong motivation for helping customers. But it shouldn't change your motivation. Why do you do things? And I want to provide for my family. I want to do a good job and do these things because it's God honoring, and because he would have us to do those things. Keep going. Things might be difficult, but change your mind. Change how you look at things. Then trust in the Lord that he's worked these things out. He's eternal. He's already been in tomorrow. He's already worked things out. He's omniscient, omnipotent. He's able to work these things through. For those who are his children, he works all things for his glory and our good. And some might say, hey, going to a bad job, how's that for my good? It is. It works out. It grows us. It becomes us more like him. Other people see how we react, and they look at those things. So have hope, have faith. It'll work out. And if it doesn't work out in this side, it'll work out for eternity. For God's glory and our good. God bless.